Good morning, friends. This is the 6th Sunday of Easter, and it's the festival that we have before Ascension Day. And so we've really worked through this period of Easter with all the extraordinary lessons to learn, and it all seems to have passed quite quickly, but here we are. The Paschal candle then is on the altar for the last time for the festivals to remind us about the risen Christ. So the message again in this collection of Collect, Epistle and Gospel is the same, but I want to introduce a new idea to you today. It's not a new idea and you've heard it before, but in the context of this particular festival of Easter. So the Collect reads, Lord Christ, whose wondrous triumph thy faithful people year by year do celebrate. I just want to pause on that, and I want to say these words give us this long view, this projection of recalling. And here we are, 2,000 years later, 2,000 year by years, we are celebrating this. We pray thee that as the years roll on, we also may triumph over sin, and following thy glorious ensample, may rise into the fullness of our spiritual heritage, So we focus on the great victory of Jesus the Christ, our Master. We focus on that, and we rejoice. But we also should keep in mind, this is our path. This is our spiritual heritage. This enormous growth opportunity is for us. And how can that be? Well, Jesus didn't do it for nothing. He didn't do it just to be spectacular. He did it as an example for us and for several other reasons. He did it to bring his presence more deeply embedded into our world, so it's easier for us to connect with him in our hearts. You recall we've talked about this before, where we all forget because we just see one another in our physical presence. We all forget what is actually the way that we are put together as people. We are spiritual beings with physical bodies, first and foremost. We're not physical bodies with something tacked on called a spiritual bit or Christ's presence. It's the other way around. And we have to remind ourselves every day about that, because our so-called common sense, which is a little bit hard to find, is it not? Our common sense tells us, oh no, it's just a body, I can feel you, you've got fingers and toes, you've got to clean your teeth and do your hair. And we do that so regularly. But we don't say to ourselves, as regularly as we should, wait a minute, we are first and foremost spiritual entities with a physical body. So, as the years roll on, we remember that our spiritual heritage is first and foremost. Now, in the epistle from the Acts of the Apostles, this is Peter talking, and it actually comes as part of the reading of Pentecost. So it's just after Pentecost, which we haven't celebrated yet. First Ascension and Pentecost. So, this is all the disciples talking to a big crowd of people who have come and wondered what all the hubbub is. What are all these people doing? And we'll come to that in that Rise Festival. And he reminds them. He reminds the people that are listening from all the different nationalities. They're all Jews who have got a Jewish heritage, but they've all come to Jerusalem for the Passover, the most important festival in the Jewish year. Now, it's Easter for us, but it's at the same time as the Jewish Passover, he reminds them that this is being foretold by David and the other prophets. Now, we probably read this every year. We thought, oh, that's nice. And we thought, what does that really mean? Or maybe we haven't thought that at all. But the point I really want to present to you from this is an example of the way that God plans things. Now, here's a little subtlety which we all need to be aware of. First of all, I'll tell you a little joke. The way to cheer angels up is to tell them what we're going to do. Anyway, that's just a little joke, because what it means is we have plans, but we must be sensitive. Are they the right plans for us? It's important to make plans. It's all important to make provisions. It's important to try and find our way forward. But first, tune in to what our plan is personally, and then we go forward, because we are part of the plan. And the way that Peter is saying in this, when he's talking to the people, he's saying, you men of Israel, just remember you've got prophets who tell you that these things are going to happen. So in our heritage, we know about God having a plan. Not every heritage has that. So just be mindful of the things that we sometimes take for granted because we've heard them before. But we tune in to what's good for us, what's appropriate for us, what's in God's plan, and then we proceed. This famous quote from Luther, Martin Luther, where he said, if he only had 10 minutes to do the most vital thing in that day, the most vital, absolutely vital thing, and he only had 10 minutes, he would spend 9 minutes praying and meditating, and then he would do it. In other words, he would put himself into alignment with God, and then he would proceed. When we're in a terrible hurry and time is not our friend, what do? We rush all over the place. And sometimes it doesn't turn out well, does it? So it's a hard thing to try, and I've tried it a couple of times, and I have to say it's very effective, very effective. The Gospel from St. Mark tells the story again of the women getting up early and coming to the tomb and finding the stone has been rolled away. Well, some people say, well, why did the stone have to get rolled away? I mean, Jesus has got a spiritual body now. He passed through walls and suddenly appeared amongst the disciples. Well, there's always two sides to a story, aren't there? The women could not have looked into the tomb unless the stone was rolled away. The rolling of the stone away is for our benefit, for the women's benefit, for subsequently the disciples' benefit, to come and look inside, and so then to communicate with the angels. Meeting with the presence of Jesus the Christ, being told not to touch him as he's still progressing on his own path, but to go into Galilee, and there more instructions will be given. And so all the time when he's appearing, he has the same effect on the disciples. They're suddenly galvanized. Beforehand, they're not so sure. And you think, wait a minute, if I'd been a disciple, then I wouldn't have been like that. Oh, really? Is that right? Do you remember 24 hours a day that you're a spiritual entity, a spiritual body, and that your physical body is not the center of your consciousness? We're just like the disciples in many ways. We have to have the signs and wonders. We have to have Jesus appearing, and then we get going. So, of course, Jesus is compassionate. that Christ is compassionate, he knows about the human condition. But we should live and learn. As the years roll on, we should be learning and changing and taking advantage of these intense periods around Easter, the preparation before Christmas, Advent, intense period of preparation, and then we get the full benefit for us, so that we can remain on the path in a clear, straight way and not ping-pong down the road like ping-pong machines where the ball goes bong, 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 all the way down to the bottom. We go whoosh, straight down. We stay on the path by using Martin Luther's method. Pray, meditate for 9 minutes and act for 1. And then we're in alignment with God's plan. Then we can see what's best for us individually, each one individually. So as we draw to the end of the post-Easter period, where great learnings have been transmitted, and we are looking at the Ascension and then Whitsunday, Pentecost, always recall these lessons and don't let them slip away. They're so precious. I urge you to take the time this week and just let these ideas rest in your heart.